And we are live for the Steelers Depot live stream here on Monday, October 4th. Appreciate you guys being here with us. As always, I am Alex Kozora. Alongside me is Dave Bryan, answering hopefully as many questions as possible for you guys from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So please be sure to send questions in the chat. No, we already have some lined up. We'll have probably a fair amount of questions today, I imagine. So if you want to be guaranteed to go to the top of the line, get your question asked and answered as quickly as possible, please send us a super chat. If you guys could like this video as well, that would help us out quite a bit to get more people into the chat as well. Dave, how you doing? Thanks for being with us.
I'm doing good. Going through some tape this afternoon.
Lot to go through. Steelers 1-3, unfortunately. And again, if there's any issues with the video or audio on my end or Dave's end, please let us know as well. Until then, though, we'll start here with the first question, and that comes from, I think there was one that came in a while ago. It's not showing up in the chat anymore, so I apologize to whoever asked questions a couple hours ago. If you could ask that question again, that would help me out quite a bit. We'll start though with Mike Adesso says, "Gotta say, been a down season for Minka so far. Would you say he's not making the splash plays because he's being asked to do too much, do so much more this year with lack of Denver wide receiver? Maybe they can keep him back." Mike, the last 2 weeks he's kind of played his more traditional Minka role. The first 2 weeks it was more slot cornerback work, and I think maybe it was a bit too much and it was a little uncomfortable for him, something he hasn't done in a while. So the last 2 weeks, he's kind of been switched back to I think a more normal role. But I mean, he just leaving some plays on the table. Best I think encapsulated by that dropped interception against Aaron Rodgers yesterday. That would have been such a huge play for him to make for this defense to have. And so I don't think it's been as bad as some of the PFF numbers show, but he's not been his typical Minka self.
Yeah, they claim he's been out of position, on several plays, and that's what's led to his bad grade with them. Now, obviously, we don't have a full grasp of how they go about their grading system. And look, it boils down to, I mean, you know the splash plays when you see them type things. You know the impact plays when you see them, especially when it comes to a safety type and all. And like you said, the last couple weeks have been kind of more traditional for what he does. And had that one, had an opportunity yesterday, and you don't get many of those a game, and you definitely don't get many of those a game when you have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers either there. So and yeah, and Alex and I talked on the podcast this morning too, even on the play that Terrell Edmonds got beat across his face by Cobb there. You want to make an impact play? I mean, he slipped in the end zone there. At least if Minka doesn't slip there, he makes the tackle short of the goal line, and you have some blades of grass to defend. And who knows? Maybe you hold him to a field goal in that situation there and all. But yeah, it's just look. I mean, defense in general. I mean, and obviously offense. Not enough plays going around.
Yeah, for sure. Andresa with a $2.79 super chat. Thank you so much. As a question, hey, what's the criteria for a successful pass? Is it the same as a successful run? And realistically speaking, shouldn't we be 2-2? One game back doesn't look that bad. Dave, you're the success rate guys. You've been talking about that for as long as anybody I know. How would you define a successful pass play?
Yeah, and it's the same criteria as it is with the successful run. And what it is it's 40% of first down yardage needed, which obviously most of the time is first and 10. But obviously, if it's shorter or longer than that, then it's 40% of that number or better. Second down, 50% of the needed yardage or better. And then third down, 100%. Third and fourth down, 100% of the yardage needed. Now, any play over 6 yards, regardless, or especially with a run, I don't know how they classify passes in those situations. I'm gonna have to jump back and research that probably at a later date there. But I know any run 6 yards or longer is automatically deemed a successful run, and I would imagine a pass too for that matter there. So same criteria is usually what I go off of. Mostly, what I'm most considered most worried about when I do find success rate is run success rates, because that everything kind of rolls off of
Hmm.
that from there.
Right, right. And then for as far as them, being 1-3 instead of 2-2, sure. I mean, they've had chances. They've had close games against the Bengals for some stretches were close, and the Raiders game, was close, and they could have had some key moments to really get back into that game. Same could be said against the Packers yesterday, but they're just not making those plays, and if you don't make those plays, you're not going to win those games. Robert Tolbert, the culture of the O line is lackadaisical, getting blown off the ball, not lining up with any urgency. When you do well, the team does well. You guys are the heart and soul of the team. Yeah, Robert, I mean, to the overall big picture point, I had said entire offseason, it wasn't like it was some sort of crazy, nuanced, advanced point that I made, but I said the X factor of this team is the offensive line. As they go, so will the offense, and by extension, so will the team. And they have not played well. They've played poorly overall, and the team has played poorly as well, especially this offense. So I think I think urgency has been there. I think they're an aggressive group. They're a more physical group than last year. But where they kind of are the more physical group, they're lacking in the technique and some of the detailed things that last year's group could do well. But last year's group lacked the physicality and the toughness and the drive and the finish. And so it's like both parts are missing like the key other half component of good offensive line play. So I wouldn't say that they're lackadaisical. I just think they're not technically sound.
Yeah, I don't think it's lackadaisical by any stretch. It's just they're making a lot of mistakes. It's just not technically sound. And the good thing is I mean we're celebrating how many rushing yards yesterday, Alex?
Yeah, Najee at 62. I think it was like 61 or 62 as a team.
Yeah, and what was their success rate? That I said over 70%. I mean, you,
Hmm.
you feel like we should be throwing a parade or something.
Yeah.
It's getting a key to the city or something for somebody when that happens. I mean, there was push along the line there. Now, look, don't get me wrong. The going through the all 22 tape this afternoon and all, it's littered with more mistakes in there. But at least there were more successes in there. But the fact of the matter is too that they only ran the ball. They didn't run the to get it didn't get a chance to run the ball enough. Normally you have those run success if you run early and then you're punching the ball in the end zone. You get chances to run successful late, and really they didn't get the opportunity to do that. It ended up becoming just garbage fantasy point time for Najee Harris. I thank him for that, but that's what it turned into.
Yeah, you're right. Can Kendrick Green please execute a down block? He missed another one on Kenny Clark where his angles are just poor and he's not getting his head across the right way. He's actually getting his head across and he's not getting the down block on that, not hitting the right shoulder. And that's happened in I think the last 3 games where he's missed one of those down blocks on one of those power runs with the backside guard pulling, and it's been a big reason why that play's been blown up. And so it's just small stuff like that he has to be able to do. And it's not just Kendrick Green, of course, but I think he's been to me if you had to pick somebody as the weak link in the run game, it's been him or the
Well,
weakest
there's
link.
there yeah, there's one play in the second half looked like he ran into a brick wall, and that brick wall's name was Kenny Clark,
Hmm.
for sure. Uh, the upside is that was probably Kendrick Green's best game of the season. The downside is he had nowhere to go but up,
Hmm.
and once again, it really is littered with more run blocking fails and pass blocking
Yeah.
fails obviously as well too. Trey Turner got walked back and really on that same play. If you look at the end zone view of that, Dan Moore got worked over. So Ben was really just
Hmm.
sandwiched in between the two. So it wasn't just Trey Turner on that one.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point. He actually got pulled down by the right defensive end that Moore got walked back by, and that's why he went to the ground. But pressure from both sides on that play. Couple of super chats here. Appreciate it. First one from Travis Herco, $10. Thank you so much, Travis. I know you donated before. Really appreciate it. Only one donation. No more donations because I think you like to send 4 or 5 in a show, and we appreciate that. But there's no need to. Says at what point is anyone going to address the defense hitting and not tackling going through the last 2 games? I've seen 23 times when a player should have been wrapped up and was shoulder checked. Yeah, we'll see what the missed tackle report is from Josh Carney. I think he's working on it right now. That'll probably be up tomorrow or Wednesday, and the numbers have not been strong the last 2 weeks. I can't give you a great answer for why that is. The best thing I could sit there and say, and it's not a good answer, I suppose, but the idea this team's going for the big hits to try to create the turnovers and force fumbles because this defense knows they have to create splash to pick up an offense that just can't do much of anything right now. So I'm not saying that's the right approach, but I understand if that's the mentality because they need the ball search and take the football away and make those kinds of plays. And wrap up tackles don't always get the job done in that sense of the word, at least. Bindle70 has a $10 super chat as well. Thank you so much. This is in reference to Charlie Batch's comments. And by the way, it was Jonathan Mason said, because we're trying to find the comments on Charlie Batch, says to answer something from the podcast today, the post game show usually plays on a loop until the locker room show the next day. I've never been able to find it in podcast form, so don't know if we'll be able to get those comments, verbatim or not. But Findle says Batch's remarks about Canada and Ben. It feels to me tinfoil hat the organization is having guys like Dulac and Batch protect Ben's feelings by blaming others. They don't want another Bradshaw, Troy, etc. Thanks. I mean, I haven't listened to all of Batch's comments, so I don't know if there was commentary about Ben's actual play. I think what Bat says, I think it's fair to say that it has merit, and it's talking about Canada's not being a good fit overall for Ben in this offense. But both things can be true. Canada can do a poor job, and Ben can be playing poorly, and I think both of those things are true. So I can't get into their psyche and their reason for why they're saying that. I think that at least from what I've heard from Batch, I don't know what Dulac's saying, that Canada has not done a great job overall, but that's true of a lot of guys on this offense, most of the guys on this offense, in fact.
Yeah, it's so hard to comment on something that's, second, third hand information like that. I don't doubt what Charlie is saying or what seems to be out there, but it would be better if we had just the full context and they able to hear it for ourselves. I know there's some stuff out there saying that Ben doesn't have the ability to check out of certain things or change the player or what have you, but it's hard to address something so vague like that, and would we know for sure or not, unless somebody really asked the question, of Ben or Canada, and maybe they will this week, then it really is hard to comment on that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. I mean, it is kind of peculiar. You see the situation like we had in that we talked about on the podcast this morning about that fourth down play to Juju on the mesh route into his zone coverage there, and are they not? And also, the play clock's running down. You send Najee out wide. There's like by the time he gets set, there's like 6.5 seconds on the play clock,
Hmm.
and it's counting down. Ben lifts his leg the first time. It's like 5 seconds. If you're Ben and you know what you have there in that situation, and it's zone, which I think there's enough there to let you know that there is zone just by the way they treated Najee out wide. And if that's the case, and your plays, you don't have a high percentage play running into that, then it's probably the quarterback's job to call a timeout there, you know,
Hmm.
and he didn't, so. Who are you going to put that on? I mean, yeah, okay, you can put it on the play caller. Didn't have the right play call for the situation and guessed wrong as far as the defense is going to see. But all right, I'm sure that happens more than once a game. Fix the problem. Just don't run the play right into it if you can avoid it.
Yeah, I will say, and I still think, obviously it wasn't the right play call for that situation ultimately, and that is hindsight, but, coordinators and coaches and everyone gets judged by what actually happens, not always just the process of it all. They had run that concept earlier in the game in a similar down distance and semi similar line of scrimmage where there was in plus territory, and they had gotten man and they ran mesh and they had gotten man. It was a deep shot to Deontay, and Juju had gotten open. So when I see that in context, it makes a little bit more sense that Canada would be expecting man coverage again in a similar down distance kind of situation, but obviously didn't happen. And yeah, as soon as the as Harris walked out in the corner, covered him, then that's a good zone clue indicator. And so something maybe has to change there. But I understand the thought process a little bit more, kind of going through some of the all 22.
I mean, did Ben have enough time to change that play at that point?
Right.
Does he have
He
the
didn't have time. That's the thing. They didn't break the huddle until it was like 12 seconds left, which is a big
right?
problem.
Right. And that's the thing that I pointed out this morning and I pointed out on Twitter too, is it didn't look like he had enough time.
Right.
Now, but is that something that's worth him addressing? Is there enough time at 7 seconds to use some sort? There was no urgency on his part once he saw Najee out there. He lifts the leg even, you know, and the first time, and still no urgency. He didn't seem too overly concerned about it,
Hmm.
At that point, you would think if you're running something right, I mean, if you're running a play right into a zone coverage like that, and it's designed to be a man beater, you'd think you try to get out of it, especially on fourth down.
Yeah,
And what I mean by call timeout and do everything you can not to run the play.
right. I just want to know why they broke the huddle so late. I mean, that's a fourth
Mm.
down play. The other fourth down, the first failed one, the pass in the flat to Najee, they got to take a timeout the play before that. So they're not executing this stuff from the start well, and I think that's not helping the results, obviously.
Yeah, that and of course it probably won't get asked to Tomlin on Tuesday or to Ben on Wednesday, but it was kind of things or Canada on Thursday. Say what happened where it seemed like they were getting to the line of scrimmage so late on that fourth down play.
Yeah, I mean, I would not expect him to give an answer. I think it's a worthwhile question to ask, but Canada is as tight-lipped as he doesn't say anything in these moments.
Hmm.
Findle says, by the way, Dulac's big complaint is that Ben doesn't like Canada up in the box. That he should do what Ben wants and go to the field. Yeah, I'm sure Ben doesn't love it, but I mean, I'm not going to pretend like my Canada standing on the sidelines going to fix the issues for this team. But I could understand where Ben's coming from.
Yeah, where does all this stuff? I mean, it feels like some of this stuff's just manufactured from some of these beat writers. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, some of it's probably if the offense was running fine, then no one would be talking about this as an issue right now. So maybe we're searching for some stuff there. But yeah, again, I don't think it's the big issue there. Obviously, all right. Back to the questions here, and again, please, sure, if you could like the live stream here and send questions. We're here till 8 p.m. Let's see. Jonathan Mason says, looks to me that Ben is just bailing on the play and throwing it too quick. Honestly, I think Charlie was just saying that Ben doesn't have the freedom to check into another play like he used to do. Yeah, I'm sure there's some grain of truth to that. I think the menu of plays and the playbook as a whole has been much more limited this year under new OC as opposed to Rainy Feetner, which isn't unusual, I suppose, but still damaging nonetheless. Jason Bodine says, hello, Daleks. Nobody really gets a true passing grade so far this season. It's been bad all around, and I don't see it getting better, but it all starts with Ben. It's obvious he's done mentally. I don't know if I would say he's done mentally. I think it's very hard to look into the psyche of him. I think he's a big competitor that wants to win, and I'm sure, probably knows that this is his last season. Does not want to play his last season going 6-11 and getting hit 57 times a game. So I don't know if he's done mentally. I think he's frustrated, and he's not playing well. And physically, I think he's got some issues, obviously. But mentally, it's hard for me to say that he's done from the neck up.
Yeah, I don't think he's done mentally, but I think he is uber skittish about
Yeah,
interior
I think
pressure
that's
now.
true.
I mean, how can you blame him? You sooner or later you get smashed in the hand with a hammer, and you see the hammer coming again. You think you're going to get smashed in the hand again,
Right.
that kind of thing. So, yeah, well, was it Pavlov's dogs, or how does that theory go at all?
What are you trying to say? The Pavlovian response? Okay.
Yeah, what I think you know what I'm getting at there is just I don't think he trusts it. And I think you really see that on the fourth down play to Najee there. The mo now is to sugar those gaps up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And make it look like coming. And how does he know it's not? You know,
Right.
what kind of indicators are there that maybe it's not coming, and he's so afraid about it coming, he's assuming that it is going to come instead of making sure it comes. And then he's just getting rid of the football because he's tired of getting punched in the mouth.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. I think he's uncomfortable back there. He does not trust his offensive line, and with good reason overall with the way he's taken, the hits he's taken this year, and I think that's not helped him at all. There was a question here, a comment here from Joey Jr. Says even Brett Favre said the first thing to go is the mental awareness. Mr. Roethlisberger has shown a lot of that. Yeah, I mean, who am I to disagree with Brett Favre? But I bring up that point because actually I was just listening to Aaron Rodgers in his post game presser, and he said that this was a couple of years ago when he was getting older. Obviously, he said, when the legs go, your whole game kind of goes. And so Rodgers was really working on squats and weightlifting and stuff like that in the offseason. And with Ben, obviously his legs are a lot different, even compared to a couple seasons ago. The mobility is really, really limited, and he's had the knee problems and things like that. And you really kind of feel that with obviously the extend the play and backyard bend stuff, but even some of the stuff inside the pocket and pocket mobility within the tackle box. I think has been we've seen regression there as well, and I think you're kind of seeing that when the legs go, the rest of the body goes.
You never heard of Pavlov's dog study and all that?
No, I have. I was going to actually ask you. I have a Pavlovian response because I have my phone set to ding whenever I get like Twitter alerts, messages from you, and just stuff from Schefter and things like that. So every time my phone dings, like I literally like squirrel and just turn immediately to my phone so I can catch it right away. Do you have that too? Do you set your phone where it dings, or like you gotta have that response?
I've graduated now to where I have different rings for different things, so
Oh,
I'm
okay.
even worse. So I know if it's you, I know if it's somebody else DMing me, I know if it's a certain person with a breaking news on Twitter, that kind of thing there. So
Mm.
I'm even worse.
That's a good idea though.
I've graduated way beyond that now, and also my phone goes with me in bed, so you can imagine my if I fail to right before I go to sleep turn it off for the 2 hours that I sleep, what wifey likes to think about that.
Not too happy. Yeah, that's a good idea because yeah, my phone dings the same way whether it's an Uber Eats alert or it's a DM from you, which makes me always think that it might be something newsworthy. And usually it's not, but that 10% of the time that it is, you always have to check it. Uh,
I just might just be checking and say hello.
Please don't do that because I'll be going, what's happening? What's going on? What move happened? Who got injured? Anyway, Mike Odessa, who is leading the defense in slot snaps this season so far? Is there really any answer there? Because Millette ain't it. I think Millette actually played decent against the Packers. His run defense was solid. I don't have the exact number right now. I'll do my charting here sometime later this week, my kind of quarterly charting. And so it's either Millette or Trey Norwood. It's been Norwood was early, and Millette's been more the guy the last couple of weeks. So they're probably pretty close.
Hmm. Feels
Uh,
like it.
yeah, yeah, for sure. BMK Bully Mob Kennel Week 17 versus Browns second quarter. Number two, Mason Rudolph throws a dime to number 18, about 40 air yards down the field. Number two was hit and threw off his back foot. The placement was nice. Can Ben make that throw? If not, can Rudolph be worse? So basically saying, should this team turn to Rudolph? Dave, what do you think?
I think it's going to happen sooner or later this season, and it might just be one of those things that they don't have a choice because Ben can't keep getting punched in the mouth.
Yeah,
Alex is going to have a highlight tape full of those kind of oomph
yeah.
moments.
Highlight is a word to use.
Yeah, there. So at some point I'll predict at some point this season we'll see Mason probably starting, and unfortunately it might be due to injury,
Hmm.
because I just don't see how this guy, I mean, even that what we just talked about earlier in the show on that sack there, you get to see that end zone view of it, and he pulled down by, I mean, he was slammed down to the ground by the back of his neck,
Mm,
and had they not changed that horse collar rule, that that's a horse collar penalty. But and then something that you don't really see, I think, is it first half they're down deep in there. Najee Harris doesn't do a good job on a on one of those pickups there, and Ben takes one right in the mouth there, I think. Then you go back to the
right.
game against the Bengals,
Yep.
and on that pass to Chase Claypool, DJ Reader right up underneath the chin there. I mean, this guy, I mean, nobody likes getting hit at that at any age, but at his age now, and all the injuries he's had, I mean, you got to wonder when enough is enough.
Yeah.
There.
And he's already playing hurt. He's got the pec injury. I'm sure that's not really been better since he's been playing since he first heard it in the Raiders game.
Hmm.
Let's see. Tony H, what do you think? Absolutely, our corner. All right, hold on. What do you think about our corner and quarterback situation from Tony H? And we just kind of talked about the quarterback situation in terms of the cornerback room. It's some of the youthful guys here, some of the new faces. I think they've had to play a lot more zone coverage than they probably have in the past and would like to do. It's forcing them to blitz a little bit less often as well. And I think it's kind of, one reason why the lack of pressure hasn't been as strong as it has been in recent years. Now some of that's injury related as well, obviously, but I think they all kind of go hand in hand. And so you have some young cornerbacks back there trying to figure out roles, and it's not as clean cut as it has been, the last 2 seasons.
Well, look, you're not gonna, I think it's a lot to expect to think that Joe Hayden's going to be back next season.
Hmm.
I think it's reasonable to expect that he won't be. You're obviously going to have Sutton still under contract and all. What else you going to have back there?
Yeah, from there, it kind of becomes an unknown. A lot of guys, I mean, you'll have Trey Norwood back there in the slot role, James Pierre potentially on the outside. Hopefully, his game continues to evolve and could be a full time starter next season. Potentially, Sutton Pierre on the outside. And from there, you're probably drafting some guys or signing some guys.
Right. I mean, in other words, I think that's a position that you're probably going to have to address in the draft. We'll see what happens with. I mean, Witherspoon can't even get a helmet right now. Makes you kind of wonder, you know, if they do re-sign him, it'll be for peanuts,
Hmm.
and then not guaranteed a spot there. So I mean, that's definitely. I think cornerback's definitely a position that they're going to have to address in the draft and address early at that.
Yeah. Christopher Welbenhaus. Hey, Alex and Dave. Is it too soon to look forward free agency and seeing if we can pick up some O linemen? And given the youth they have, who do you think would ride the bench in this case? I mean, I know people have asked about it, and Dave, we have similar thoughts. They're not going to sign somebody unless there were like multiple injuries happening here. Mitchell Schwartz, Russell Okung's not walking through this door. So, and who would get benched would depend on who they signed and where they play. But I'm not anticipating that happening really at all this season.
No, I don't either, and I've said that for the longest time now. I mean, they're going to ride with look. Hopefully you're going to get Zach Banner back as early as this next Sunday, and Coward dealing with an ankle injury, not serious enough to go on IR that with that yet. So he's one of your top or one of your reserves at least, and no, it'd take a couple of injuries, couple of guys going on IR. And even so, you're not going to go out there and spend a lot of money to get a guy off the street if you
Right.
need one.
Yeah. Verdon Barzy has a question about Adrian Clem. Says, how much percentage of the O line issues do you think is talent, Clem coaching, or just time? Additionally, was there a clear mistake in the draft of these players? It's hard to parse that stuff out. Coaching can be so tough to evaluate because their impact Monday through Saturday, and you see the product on Sunday, and again, they're judged off of that. But you look at what are they taught to do, and what they aren't they doing, and those kinds of things. Um, what do you think, Dave?
All we can do is just go off the tape,
Sure.
man. I
Yeah.
mean, we're not there at practice, and we don't know what's being taught. I mean, all we can do is watch the tape and then pass along what we see on the tape, that way. And look, we're constantly learning new things,
Hmm.
thankfully with Twitter and with Duke and some of the videos he has, and Brandon, some of the videos that he has up there, you constantly learning new things.
Yeah.
But on top of it, I like to think that we got a good, pretty good grasp combined, you and I, that we can get through some tape pretty good and do a pretty good job of grading and judging what we see there. And right now it's just a lot of technical stuff in there. I think Kendrick Green's got to get a lot stronger for starters, and then he's got to get more technically sound at the position.
Hmm.
Uh, Dotson's just got to get more technically sound, and you would have hoped that would have happened in his second year now. Trey Turner's going to be gone after this year. BJ Finney's not going to be back after this year. Obviously, Dan Moore's got to get, he's a rookie. He's going to go. He's going through his growing pains right now. Chikwama Okorafor's not going to be back next year. Zach Banner's going to have to. We'll know real quick whether or not Zach Banner, in these next 5, 6, 7 games, whether or not Zach Banner will even be back, even though he's under contract.
Hmm.
So that's going to be another position, at least guard, that you're going to address in the draft, and probably even a tackle position as well. And you don't have to draft uh, uh, you know picks to do everything that you want to do with. So some
Right.
of that might have to come in free agency.
Yeah, it may. I would just say I don't think they've been terribly coached in terms of like looking lost or out of position. There's been a lot of issues, obviously, and Clem, is responsible for that ultimately. The big thing you would look at though is just what is the growth of this group throughout the year? Do they improve? Do they get better? Do they correct some of those mistakes? Instead of looking at things just game by game. How did things look in game one, game two compared to game 16, 17? And if you're seeing growth and improvement, then you're seeing players getting better, you're seeing coaching take hold, and that's probably the better measure of it in totality than opposed to the 4 week snapshot right now, Burden. That's the best way I can answer that for you. Mario Rocha says Steelers drafting a quarterback in the first round. Maybe it depends on a lot of variables. Who's available, draft picks, where they're picking, the strength of this group, those kinds of things. But this team needs a franchise quarterback, in my opinion. I've said it for a long time now. The next franchise quarterback's not on this roster, and you got to go find him. So that's the main goal for this team right now is to have that siren going off, that red alert of needing to find a franchise quarterback. Of course, much easier said than done, but that is the mission for this team.
Speaking of direct messages, your eagle has landed, sir.
Okay, I know what that means. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. Going on to the questions here. This is next question from Mike talking about positives. Are there any positives right now we can discuss? And sure, I mean the run game took some small steps in the right direction. That was good, as Mike said. Cam Hayward continued to play well. I think Joe Sherbert, at least in coverage, had a good game overall. And the team has gotten healthier in some respects. So those are all positives to take away.
Yeah, I mean, Joe. I thought Joe even intercepted that one. It kind, I had to kind of watch that one twice in the end zone there.
Hmm.
So I thought overall he played that. That's another guy. Is he going to be back next year too? You got
Yeah.
the rest of this season to get a good evaluation on him and see if he's worthy. I think you almost have to, as long as he can, you know, doesn't really play horrible the rest of the season. I think you really got to consider bringing him back next season.
Yeah, because if you let him go, it's another position you have to fill, and you're already going to have probably a lot of positions to deal with. And his play's been okay, so yeah, I think he comes back. Let's see. I had a question here. Actually, Braden Miller says, "Have a nice night, you guys. Thanks for the great coverage. No matter how bad of a team we root for, appreciate that, Braden. Thanks for being here."
Here's the thing: win or lose, people, we're going to be here breaking this stuff down because we
Hmm.
like, we love the game, and we like learning. So, and then it also helps, give us an understanding of what this team needs moving forward. On top of it, there, obviously we're not hoping that this team continues to lose, but if they do, we'll go through the tape, we'll talk about and ways to get better, and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. We're here, good or bad. We survived 2019. We'll survive this as well. Storm Woodside, good night, gents. What are your guys' thoughts on Sam Howell? I don't have any right now, to be honest with you. The quarterback from North Carolina. Talk to Jonathan Heitritter. He's doing kind of our draft stuff right now. Dave and I will kind of circle and certainly have some thoughts as we get closer to the draft.
Yeah, I'm trying. Obviously, I pay attention to Nevada and Carson
Okay.
Strong and
Yeah.
and Malik. I've watched a little bit of the Liberty stuff, not a lot. I don't. It's just getting in tune with what's out there right now, and I'm not anywhere close to where I can even put these guys ranking or
Hmm.
whatnot. I am making myself aware of who these top, 10 are, because I think it's kind of obvious that one of them might end up being a Pittsburgh Steeler,
Yeah.
next year. The further we get into this thing, obviously into the off season, digging a lot deeper in there. But it's just more than anything right now, because our full time job is to covering the Steelers. It's just any extra time that we get, we just try to get ourselves more and more aware with some of some of these guys.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So the chat's being weird again. I guess it only archives them for so long, so I apologize. I think I might have missed a couple of questions, but Simon had one that said something basically, "How bad does it have to be until Tomlin is on the hot seat? Is that even a possibility for Tomlin if the season goes super sideways, Dave?"
I don't think so.
Yeah, me
I
neither.
mean, I don't know if they lost out from here, and Ben was still able to breathe, you know, uh, I just would be surprised. I really would. I mean, the guys, never had a lose. This, would obviously be his first losing season under 500. Yeah, there's been disappointments when it comes to the playoffs and all, but I think he is at least gotten himself to the benefit of the doubt to not just one bad season and toss him out kind of. Let me tell you, he wouldn't be on the street very long.
No,
Uh,
not
i-
24
if
hours.
if you did fire him. So and no, that's not a reason just to keep him. But
Hmm.
I still think, look, players really talk highly of him, and I think he's a good coach. And does he probably need to maybe do a better job at the hires moving forward? That's a possibility as well. But I think he's a good coach, and I think it. I would be stunned, regardless of what happens the rest of this season, if Mike Tomlin was fired.
Yeah, I can't see any scenario, no matter how bad things get. He got that long-term extension for a reason, because this will be Ben's last year. This could easily be Colbert's last year, and so Tomlin's going to be the face of this franchise going forward, and hoping to write this new chapter. And you're not going to lose your head coach, your GM, and your quarterback all in 1 year and try to keep stability and continuity. And that's just too much change. It might not be a good, satisfactory reason for a lot of people, but I'm just telling you what's going to happen. Tom is not getting fired under any circumstances. Let's see. Next question comes from Ivan Guerrero. What are your thoughts? What do you think will get this team to turn around? Will we even make the playoffs? Playoffs right now, just playoffs. Just want to win a game. uh,
Yeah,
it's
that's perfect timing on that
it's
one.
it's it's first down offense. It's a better run game and getting some splash plays and defense and special teams. Those are kind of the big picture keys right now to turning this thing around. Will it happen? I certainly have my doubts, but those are the keys.
I tell you, I'm almost. I mean, I'm almost to the point where I will say I will be shocked if this team makes the playoffs. That's how close I am.
Yeah, I mean, just not even the fact of how they're playing, but the rest of the AFC North is 3-1. I mean, you better start winning those games. You're gonna need to win, like, almost run the table in the division and win some other ones just to get back into this thing because those teams already have a lot of space in front of you.
Well, look, I had this team at 9-8, and I had them actually winning the division because I thought the division would be a little bit softer, and also because I had four of their wins coming within the division. All right,
Hmm.
and now here they are 0-1, and one of those, and their loss is obviously to a team that I thought they would sweep this year in the Bengals. So, I tell you what, you dang sure better win the rest of your divisional games right now, the way it's looking, and then you better win a couple more on top of that.
Absolutely. Time starts now. It starts in week 5 against Denver. Let's see. Back to the questions here. I saw one that I wanted to comment. I wanted to get kind of your opinion on. Dave Eddie Harlow says, "Why can't fans let Ben go? Bradshaw broke my heart at the end. What was that 83, 82 season with Bradshaw? What was that kind of feeling? Do you remember what it was like when as you knew Bradshaw was exiting and he had the shoulder or the elbow injury and it just kind of fell apart for him?"
No, yeah, I don't remember what it was like because you got to remember I didn't have the access that
Hmm.
I do now. Everything came days later, weeks later, kind of thing. More than anything, you're at the mercy of mostly anything that you'd get on the local news or in Sports Illustrated. I mean,
Mm,
you can remember I didn't get subscriptions to the Pittsburgh Post Gazette. Didn't have the big giant satellite dish out back, for whatever version of ESPN was up and running back there. So it was just one of those things that you knew was happening, kind of thing. So obviously, different feeling then than now because you're in tune with every single minute of this
right.
team now,
Sure.
whereas back then you didn't. So, but I mean, I can imagine some fans back then. I mean, you go back now and you can read all the old archive newspapers and the letters to the editor and that kind of thing. And it's like any era, though. I imagine some are ready to move on, some are defending the quarterback and want to fire all the coaches.
Right.
So I think some things never change in that aspect. Look, I mean, most of people, most of these people in this chat here, Ben is all they've known. You know,
Hmm.
uh, as the Steelers quarterback. So I imagine it is hard, but there's always the first day and there's always the last day. So and that window with Ben supposedly has been closing since like 2011 or 12. Well, I think it's finally about to
Yeah.
finally close after all these years now.
Last days are near. AZ, would you say the Steelers have more or less than a 1% chance to win the Super Bowl this season, Dave? Where are you at over under 1%? I'm taking the under.
Yeah, I'd probably take the under too. I mean, I surely wouldn't put any money on it at this point.
Yeah.
No matter, no sizable money, kind of regardless of the odds. I mean, there would be a point, I guess, where the odds would be, oh, that's probably worth maybe something, but no, it's hard to imagine this team. Look, it's hard to imagine this team making the playoffs maybe
Yeah.
right now. Let alone making a run through the Super Bowl. If their defense was playing better, I'd be more apt to say okay, maybe, but their defense not even playing. We don't know when Tua's going to get back, and uh, just a lot of popcorn going on that defensive side of football as well too. Look, this team, Alex and I, right before we get on, quick conversation. This team can still win games with Ben at quarterback, but so many things have got to go right on a week to week basis around Ben. You got to have the running game. You got to have this defense probably playing 2008 level.
Hmm.
Uh, and I just don't see that happening there. So it's hard to imagine this team winning the Super Bowl this year, let alone make the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with you. They can win if everything else goes right, but that's a big indictment on your quarterback. It's saying that you're winning in spite of your quarterback, not because of him. And when you get to that level, then that means you got to find a new guy, and this team does after the season. Empower 1969 has a comment here. I'll just read it and we'll move on. Playing Ben at this point is pure sentiment, poor business decision. So Empower wants to see a change at quarterback. Tim Chase, Ben has been downhill since AB left. Must ride with him till the season over or injured. Your opinions? He's going to be the starter until this team gets eliminated from the playoff race. If that happens, when that happens, I think then that conversation about a change probably opens up.
Right. And once again, would be might it have already happened organically?
Right, if unless it's an injury, of course. Right. Dragon Jay Z, why does everyone point the finger at Ben when he has O lineman giving him a lap dance before the shotgun snap makes it back to him 80% of the time? I think everyone recognizes the O line issues as well. I don't think it's all one or all the other. Yeah, the Steelers offensive line looks like Ben looks like Urban Meyer in the club with his offensive line up on him every single time the guy drops back. But there are multiple issues with his team. It's not just one guy, one unit. It's when it's this bad and it is this bad. It's always more than just one person.
Yeah, nobody, it's not 100% Ben, but I mean, you also can't have your quarterback missing throws like he missed in that game yesterday. You're already at a disadvantage at who you're playing on top of it there, and you all of a sudden, at least you got some semblance of a running game going, and you got to have those splash plays because of the execution not being good, not being consistent enough in all other areas, both offense and defense. You can't miss those explosive play situations, especially ones that are probably going to end up in the end zone, in touchdowns there. And Ben, like it or not, Ben missed those throws. I
Hmm.
mean, he missed them. That's it. I mean, I don't see how you can look at it any way other than that, and that's why you know look, I still overall on a game by game basis, I still think it goes offensive line, running game, or defense, offensive line, defense, running game, and then Ben. But I mean, yesterday was a clear example of Ben playing a huge part in that loss.
Right. Yeah, I hear you. Keto Kami, thoughts on Joe Haig? He played okay yesterday, better in pass pro than I expected for having to throw the ball, 45 plus times, whatever the number was. Run game looked just okay, not maybe quite as good as I thought it might be, but he's probably going to play just enough snaps to screw this team out of a fifth round comp pick. So that's probably going to be the
There you
result
go.
of this thing. So there you go.
That'll be
Uh,
something else. Go bitching that late in the season there.
15 minutes left, so be sure to get your questions in here before we wrap up the stream. Thanks for everyone who's hanging out with us. I know it's been a tough couple of weeks here, so I appreciate it. We'll have recap and analysis on Steelers Depot and on this YouTube channel throughout the rest of the week. Jonathan Mason's asking about access. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that. I think we're happy where we're at, Jonathan, but I appreciate the support there. Nonetheless, we help drive the conversation a lot. I think, Dave, with the local, even the national media sometimes. I would say
What
so.
what was the comment?
Well, I want to get into all this, but he says it's fair to criticize some of the local media, but will Bert not let Alex get media access? They can joke about y'all being bloggers all they want, but players and others around the team respect Steelers Depot. So I appreciate the encouragement there, Jonathan.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And I think it's unfair to say that Bert's not letting us get access. Bert's a good guy overall, and we've had good interactions with him in the past. Let's see. Next question here comes from Leonard Green. People yelling Mason, but the minute he throws a pick, get Ben back in there. Fair weathers. Yeah, I understand that sentiment as well, but it is fair to say that Ben's playing poorly, and that's not a fair weather thing. But I know that's not the point you're trying to make, Leonard. Mike Adesso, Dave, who would you rather have on the Steelers next season, Carson Strong or the center from Iowa? I can already hear you answering with yes. He
Look,
knows
it's
you too
still
well.
way, way,
Yeah.
way early on it. Boy, that I just got introduced myself to that Iowa center this past week, man. You want to talk about a guy that can get out from that center position and get on the move and throw some people out of the club. He certainly can there. Um, Look, I live in Nevada. Middle of last season, I guess, laying in bed, and those games come on obviously later out here and all like that, and so I'm gonna I couldn't sleep as usual, so I tuned that one in and watched some Carson Strong and Romeo Dubs, and that's kind of how it started. And really, it was more of a fascination with Romeo Dubs first. I love those kind of wide receivers that can get down the field and deliver those explosive plays. And then you start looking, well, who's this quarterback throwing these seeds out there? And it was him. And obviously I live in a state, and just kind of manifested from there. But in no way, shape, or form. I mean, it's just something that I tune into weekly, and kind of I usually have one, two, three players that I get really fascinated with every year, and that two of them obviously Dubs and Carson Strong, and obviously did some Twitter posting on that Iowa Center this past week as well too. So way too early for that, but definitely have my eye on those couple of guys.
Afrakin Mizin, I butchered that terribly, I'm sure, so I apologize. Says we should have drafted Creed Humphreys over Green. He and Trey Smith at right guard have transformed Casey's O line overnight. Yeah, I get that. I mean, if you drafted Creed, you would that means you're not drafting Pat Frymuth. And some people might say that's the right decision to make, but and I love Creed Humphrey coming out of Oklahoma, so I might have been right there with you. But Frymuth has played well at least, so there's some consolation in the fact that like Frymuth looks like a good pick, a long term option at tight end. And so that probably makes you feel a little bit better about that. And Trey Smith had the medical. And obviously that was a really good value pick ultimately, but there were medical concerns with him coming out. And that's the only reason why that guy fell to the fifth round, sixth round, wherever he was taken.
Is Fireman still a second round talent? From what you've seen so far, I mean, it's too early to obviously rubber stamp it or whatnot. But uh, from what you've seen so far, are you thinking, man, I'm glad they sure got a steal in the second round.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a steal, but do I think he's a long term option at tight end for this team, although not a dynamic one? Yeah, I think he is. He could be at least, and that's to me worth the 55th pick in the draft.
Okay.
Let's see, couple more questions here. One from Lumberzack94, and I apologize, your questions. I saw them earlier, but they're not showing up at the top of the chat, so they got cut off for whatever reason. Says, hi, Dave and Alex. All this talk about trading for Rodgers has me thinking, why not get a guy who is younger and more proven behind poor lines? What would you think about trading for Deshaun Watson? Listen, I've gotten this question a couple times already. First of all, and until all the legal stuff has been cleared up and the league has kind of weighed in. No one's touching Deshaun Watson. There's a reason why. If that wasn't an issue, he would have been traded by now. So you got to get past that point first. And I don't know when that'll be. It may not happen until this offseason. I know they're asking the moon for Watson, and rightfully so for the quarterback and the value and the talent. But I would put those odds at very low for Deshaun Watson becoming a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Right. Yeah, look, I wouldn't, as if the legal wall got cleared up and all like that. I mean, obviously, wouldn't be opposed to it, but that's a big aspect of this thing, and that's why he's still with the Texans right now, and why he hasn't been dealt. So, yeah, get the legal all cleared up with, and then come talk to us about that aspect. I mean, sure. I mean, if you could work out some type of deal and get him and not have all that baggage tied to him, yeah, why wouldn't you try to go after a guy like that? But
Right.
I mean, that there's a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of stuff that needs to be cleared up. I obviously don't know what's fact, fiction, all in there, but all I know is there's a big cloud over his head right now.
Rick McKee, besides Willis and Strong, what quarterbacks are paying special attention to, draft eligible or not? Again, I'm probably less equipped to or ill equipped to answer that question fully. There's Sam Howell from North Carolina, Desmond Ritter from Cincinnati. Um, any other names that come to mind about quarterbacks potentially in this class, Dave?
Oh yeah, Malik, the kid out of Liberty,
Yeah.
is obviously one. The Oklahoma kid,
Yeah. Spencer Rattler, right? That's his name.
Rattler, the Pit,
Oh yeah, Kenny Pickett. He looks good.
Pickett. He's got a little bit of an age on him, but I mean, he was ACC Player of the Week, wasn't he? And he's a good game against maybe BC and or I think Clemson from probably putting himself in the Heisman
Hmm.
talk there and all. So that's another one there to pay attention to. Look, we got plenty of time. We're going to have plenty of breakdowns on all these guys once we get on into the off season here, which is
Yeah,
still ways away.
Pickett has played well. There was the local kid, Phil Jurkevich, I think, Jurkevic, up in Boston College. He'd gotten hurt, I think, in week one, week two, and lost for the season. But that was the guy that was on my radar, but unfortunately, injury doing his season in. A couple more questions we'll get to as well. Was Najee crying on the sidelines last night? I don't think so. I don't know what reference you're making there. The
Nah,
real,
I
but
think it was more of a face palm.
okay. When did that? What was the situation? I don't even remember that
Just
showing.
it was late in the game. Him and Ebron kneeling side by side, and Najee just kind of had that face palm going on. I think just
Okay.
probably couldn't. At least I didn't see any crying.
Yeah, Mario Way. Should we keep Haig at right tackle? Now, as soon as Banner's ready, then he should play, and I suspect Banner will be ready to play against the Broncos. Let's see. No Mason. Why not? Mason Duck went 500. This team here is headed for 200. That's Empower in 1869. Very adamant about replacing Ben at quarterback. Point taken. Let's see.
Yeah,
Any?
you can scream for it all you want, but it's not going to happen unless Ben gets injured or this team gets officially eliminated.
Yeah.
So I mean, holler away, but you wasted breath.
Spencer Cleary. How do you think the Steelers get back to the Super Bowl? How do they do that, Dave?
Oh
I
Lord.
assume that means beyond this year. Obviously, it's not going to happen this year, but what is the path?
Gotta have a defense. Gotta have a good pass defense for starters, and second, need a quarterback that can deliver a adjusted net yards per passing attempt number over 6.5 and have a running game attached to it.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to quarterback for me. I was talking about this on a radio show a little bit ago. You look around the rest of the AFC North; it's all first-round picks and Heisman winners. It's Baker, it's Burrow, it's Lamar. You're in an AFC with Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, first-round picks. I'm not saying you have to get the guy in the first round, but you better find a franchise quarterback to compete with those guys because that's what you're dealing with for the next 10 years in the NFL. And you might be a good team with an average quarterback, a veteran journeyman type of guy with a good offensive line and a good defense. That's going to get you somewhere to maybe the playoffs, but you're not going to go anywhere with that. You need a franchise quarterback who can take over and will yourself in the playoffs. And that's what Ben could do at some point in his career. He can no longer do that, obviously. And so until you're at that point, you're never going to be better than good until you find that franchise quarterback. By the way, someone was asking about who the team released in order to sign Eli Anku. They did not have to release anybody. That practice squad spot was open because the outside linebacker swap between Derek Tuska and Jameer Jones. I presume Jones was supposed to go back to the practice squad. He was claimed by the Rams, so a spot was open, and so no one had to be released in order to add him to the practice squad.
That's correct.
Mark Tobin, do you think the quarterbacks in next year's draft are pro ready? Some are, some aren't. I'm sure, Mark. I don't have a good evaluation for you right now, and I'm guessing Dave, you probably don't either. Do,
Nah,
do you
and
think
look,
Carson Strong is pro ready? Just kind of, you watched him, I'm guessing, the most.
I think he is for the right offense too. Look, he is not that mobile cat, but I mean, is Mac Jones how you know what? You studied Mac Jones more than any of us on the site, I think.
hmm
How mobile was Mac Jones?
It was functional mobility. Obviously, he wasn't the super athlete or even a good athlete like Trevor Lawrence was, but like I think his mobility within the pocket was super impressive. And you've seen that already a couple times in the preseason and regular season. Like I still care about mobility within the pocket and pocket presence more than I do about outside the pocket mobility. It's more important than it was 10 years ago, but if you're not mobile within the pocket, then I don't really care about how mobile you are outside the pocket.
Look, Carson Strong's not going to be anything, not even, not close to Baker, not that kind of player there. Now he does seem to work okay in the pocket, but you got to remember too, some of these offenses that these guys run, he runs air raid up there, in Reno. So, can he function in an RPO type system? Can he function in some sort of system that would require a rollout? And I got to watch him a little bit more. I don't. He's obviously not asked to do that kind of stuff a lot there. So uh, look, some of these guys you think coming out, sometimes you think, boy, this guy's going to be good and they hit the NFL, and they they just don't make it. I mean, how many first round quarterbacks go by the wayside? Just
Hmm.
2 or 3 years into it. No, I mean, look at Sam Darnold. Uh, you could probably go down the list of these guys just in the last 5 years that have kind of worn. Look at Haskins.
Yeah.
That kind of thing there. So, uh, if evaluating quarterbacks was a science, man, there'd be a bunch of them, that of this younger generation right now, where you think, boy, going to compete for a Super Bowl. Now, right now, it's Brady, it's Mahomes. Uh, can Josh Allen put his name in that group this season? Even Lamar Jackson's can't kick the door in yet.
Hmm.
He's made it to the playoffs, but he can't get past that part of it there. So it's not a science, and I don't think. I'm not going to be able to even have a good evaluation of a lot of these guys until we get a lot closer to draft time.
Yeah, here's what it comes down to. Here's the dilemma of the NFL. The most important thing to do for a franchise is to find a franchise quarterback. The hardest thing to do for a franchise is finding a franchise quarterback, and it's a dart throw. And you do your best, and you're gonna probably you may whiff a couple times. I mean, you know that older Steeler fans know that from Bradshaw to Ben. You thought, oh, Bradshaw's gone, we'll just find the next Bradshaw. Well, you went
Hmm.
through Bobby Brister and Mark Malone and Neil O'Donnell and Cordell Stewart and Tommy Maddox until you finally got to Ben. And so that was how long was that? 25 years between the two. And hopefully it doesn't that last that long again, but it is no automatic thing of just buying the next Ben because that's easier said than done.
And look, you to some degree, your quarterback in an NFL has got to be able to occasionally extend a play. Joe Burrow's not the most mobile quarterback, but we saw what he did the other night, right? On that play to CJ Uzama, was able to leak out to that left side there and made it all. You got to have some of those to the ability to deliver those a couple of times, more than a couple of times throughout a season on top of it,
Hmm.
and because not everything's going to go perfect, play in, play out. You got to have quarterbacks that to some degree extend plays. Probably, obviously not to the degree that Ben did it when in his early age, but I mean, I think that's one element of quarterback play that needs to be considered. How can this quarterback do off script?
Right, for sure. I think that's increasingly important. Cut more questions, comments, and we'll wrap up the stream. Mike Adesso, isn't it kind of weird there's been no updates on Tua or McFarland? Not really. When they're on IR, there's no obligation to talk about them. They're not on the injury report, so I'm not surprised to hear nothing on that front. I mean, they've
Yeah,
asked,
I'm not.
Butler's talked about Tua a little bit as well.
Right. I'm not surprised. And Wednesday's the next line in the sand for Tuitt and McFarland.
Hmm.
We'll see if they get the clearance to go ahead and practice. And at this point, you almost kind of wonder if it'll be after the bye for both of them. But we'll
Yeah.
see.
Vishal Krishnan, when is Banner coming back, and do you think he will be an improvement? Hopefully for the Broncos game, he's eligible to return. Obviously, he was eligible to return last week and this past weekend, and did not, so might need another week. But I'm hopeful for the Broncos game. Do I think he'll be an improvement? Yeah, I think in the run game, that's kind of his calling card. So yeah, I think I'll be happy to see him. I just want to get a good evaluation on him. I just still don't know a whole lot about Banner's game because he's been unfortunately injured for so much of his career. Let's see. Do we have any more questions here? Someone's asking about if Kendrick Green's going to go to the bench. I don't think so, but if it gets bad enough, I think that's possible, but not yet. Let's see. Are there any more questions? Trying to see if there's any more. Why is it the play calling for Ben to throw to Harris on 4th and 10 keeps happening game after game? Who is making those play calls? Yeah, obviously they're bad outcomes and throws. I think, as Dave said earlier, I think Ben's getting spooked there and thinks pressure's coming, so he's trying to throw hot and quick against pressure, and then defenses are dropping out, and that's making it look worse than it is. I don't believe that Harris is the true design guy on those passes.
The next time that they get in that situation, somebody sugars them A gaps, they're going to be coming next time. I promise you.
That's a good point. They probably will. And Ben's gonna be like, "Hold on to the football." Yeah, and get
Yeah,
sacked.
that might be the one that we're talking about right there. That organically happening.
Right, in terms of Ben being replaced. So
Right.
yeah, he's taking a beating back there for sure. So I think that's gonna do it for the live stream today. Appreciate you guys being here. I know it's been tough to watch this team. It isn't. It's a lot more fun to talk about this team in wins than losses. And it's been 3 straight losses for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But hopefully they get back on track against the Broncos. We'll be back in 2 weeks, so that'll be back after the what is it, week 6 game, and hopefully talk about them, put the team in a much better position than they are right now. Thank you guys for being here. Dave, as always, thank you for being here as well.
Thank you for doing what you do, Alex. You run these things really really good. I appreciate it.
Appreciate
Peace and love, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
If you want to see an archived version of this, it'll be up on Steelers Depot in a little bit. Also, get archived on the YouTube channel. We'll have film room breakdowns a little bit later, probably starting tomorrow over on the YouTube channel and on Steelers Depot as well, of course. And thank you guys for being here, and we'll talk to you soon.